Good evening, everyone. I'm Saltanat, and I'm the moderator for today's webinar. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to this webinar. A special shout out to all those who are connected to us via Zoom, and a special shout out going to all those who have connected to us through Facebook. We have an interesting mix of participants who are students, teachers, parents, and past students who have joined us today. So a very warm welcome to all of you. Today's webinar, titled What I Stand For is What I Stand On, is aptly encapsulates the need to take a strong stand to protect our environment, as our very survival depends on it. Every year, 5th of June is observed as World Environment Day, where countries across the planet come together to spread awareness on predefined environmental issues that calls for urgent attention and positive action. I would like to share some facts with you about the environment. Annually, the world loses around 10 million hectares of forest. And in terms of areas, this is around the size of Republic of Korea. And to contextualize it in the Indian context, it would approximately correspond to the state of Telangana. Since 1970, approximately 30% of natural freshwater ecosystems have disappeared. So we are losing forests, we are losing aquatic ecosystem. Does that bother us? Because it's just the forest and water? Well, you'd be surprised to know that 40% of the world's population, that is around 3.2 billion people, are already affected by environment degradation. So any guesses on what's the topic for World Environment Day today? Well, it's ecosystem restoration, which means preventing, halting, and reversing the exploitation and damage done to the Earth's ecosystem. This World Environment Day will also kick off the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration 2021-2030, a global mission to revive billions of hectares of land that is under forests, farmlands, mountains, as well as land that is under the depth of the sea. Reimagine, recreate, and restore is the mantra for ecosystem restoration. Before I begin, I would like to introduce TERI. The acronym TERI stands for the Energy and Resources Institute, an independent, multidimensional research organization where the research is translated into technology products, technical services, as well as policy advisory and outreach. The institute has dedicated verticals working on specific environmental issues to develop innovative solutions. And with us, we have today Mr. Siddharth Edke, who's from the Forestry and Biodiversity Division, and Ms. Mary Abraham from the Water Division. I work with the Environment Education Awareness area that works extensively with the youth to sensitize and imbibe environmental sensibilities and values in them. DPS Bhopal doesn't need any introduction. It's a school that is committed to ensure that academic excellence is obtained, as well as it deeply ingrains the value of love, kindness, devotion, and service before self. With these guiding principles, the Green School Drive was launched on 21st December 2009, where a core group of students and teachers collectively worked to transform the school into a green zone and spread the message in the community. I would like to welcome our green warriors, Ms. Kashish Joshpura and Ms. Harshita Bhapna, who have been associated with this Green Committee for the past 3 years. Ms. Kashish loves to paint and travel, and Harshita plays badminton and loves to read during her leisure time. Welcome, all of you. So the stage has been set, and before we get to the floor, I have a couple of housekeeping requests that will maximize the benefits of this webinar for all of us. One is that to ensure better connectivity and clarity during the webinar, the audio and video of all the participants on Zoom platform have been disabled. Hence, if you're unable to hear or need something to be repeated, would request you to please put it down on the chat section on the Zoom. The backend team will assist you. At the end of the session, we have a Q&A session, and we request you to please type in your questions into the chat section of your Zoom platform or in the comment section of the YouTube platform. Please be assured that you will get a response to your queries. The panelists also will respond to you in the course of the session. Along with your question, please type in your name and grade. And please be mindful of the language that you use. Okay, so with that, let's dive into the topic. I have a very quick activity, and I want to know if you think that forests are important. And if you feel so, I would like you to put it down in the chat section. Okay, so we have some interesting answers, and which basically goes to ensure that we need to work on our forests. We need to restore our forests. And just to give you another fact is that every 3 seconds, we lose a forest patch. And we lose these forest patches, which are like as big as, a football pitch. And this is going for industrial, it's going for urbanization, it's going for farm development. We have with us Mr. Siddharth Kedke, who, along with his team, have done some exemplary work in the Northeast, and would request him to share his story of working in the forest. Siddharth has a master's in science on the topic of biodiversity, and in terms of experience has been working in this area for more than a decade. I would like to emphasize on one quality of him, which I feel has taken him to where he is today, and that is his passion for his work. Over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you so much, Saltanat, for those kind words. First of all, thank you, DPS Bhopal, for inviting me. It's an honor to interact with all our little green warriors from DPS Bhopal and whosoever are watching us live on Facebook. I'm going to present an interesting case study of our work from Nagaland, as Saltanat said. Many of you probably may be knowing, some of you who don't know, that Nagaland is a part of Northeast India, with Assam, Meghalaya. So all these are Northeastern states, and they are very, very beautiful. They are mostly tribal. You have some amazing tribes. You can see some colorful pictures here. So I'm going to talk more about our friends from Nagaland and the kind of work that we do in the coming slide, and how it is related to today's topic of eco-restoration. So as I said, it's a tribal state. It's a very, very small state. If you compare it to Gujarat or any other big state, Rajasthan, most of the people, they live in rural areas. Almost 70% population is living in rural areas, and most of them are engaged in farming. As in, there are no big factories there. There is no IT industry there. So most of the people are living on agriculture and different occupations related to it. From my point of view, because I study biodiversity and wildlife, it's also very beautiful because it's one of the biodiversity hotspots, meaning there are lots and lots of number of species that you find there, which you don't find anywhere else. You can see some colorful pictures of butterflies, elephants, some snakes, which are very, very unique to this place, which you don't find elsewhere. And most of the new species that you're finding in India are right now currently from the Northeast part, because it's quite unexplored at this moment. Another interesting thing here is that you must probably be knowing that in Gujarat, all the forests are governed and managed by the forest department, and that's true for any other state in India. But what the speciality about Nagaland is that there is a special provision in our Indian constitution which gives the local communities there full ownership of their forest, as in the local people are managing their own forests, their own rivers, their own, all the natural resources that are there are being managed by the local communities. This you don't find in other parts of India, and that's what makes Northeast or Nagaland very unique. The food culture there is also unique. So just like how we eat dal, rice, roti, they eat all organic stuff, bamboo shoots. You'll find all sorts of organic vegetables that grow there. You can see some beautiful pictures there. But in the pictures down there, you can also see some hunted animals, because wildlife hunting is also part of the culture. And for generations together, they've been hunting wildlife, and they've been consuming it. It's a part of their diet. But that's where the problem is, because now the population has increased and the population of wildlife has decreased, because to an extent the forests have also decreased. So that's where the problem lies. And that's where we come into picture. I'll tell you how. Another important thing is the community part of it. The community is very close knit in Nagaland, and most of the activities are done together by the entire community. You can see some moving pictures here. On the top, you can see this entire village has gone to a river, and they're beating this a particular creeper that you find in a very systematic way, and whatever juice it gives out, it just stuns all the fish in the river, and then the whole community consumes it. Here in the second moving picture, you can see how they're doing farming, where people help each other. And in the last moving picture, you can see how the entire village just sets out for hunting, and whatever they bring in, it's all shared and consumed by the entire village. So as I said, the community aspect is very, very strong in the state of Nagaland. That's where certain problems have come in, because as I said, extensive hunting and aggressive fishing has actually depleted a lot of their local wildlife, and that's where the problem lies. Second thing is also that you have a very different type of agriculture there called shifting cultivation or slash and burn, where they just cut down an entire patch of forest. You can see here in the second picture, and then they burn that forest, and then they grow the agriculture crops there. Then they move on to the second patch. So this is called shifting cultivation, but this results in a major loss of forest, right? Then, so what is the solution to that? The solution lies in an age-old traditional conservation practice. We right now call it the community conserved areas, or CCAs, where each and every village leaves a certain patch of forest as a reserve, where they do not allow to hunt, where they do not allow to cut down trees. So that patch is completely left intact. And Terry did this first ever documentation. We went to each and every village in Nagaland. There are around 1,500 villages, and we documented that there are 407 such villages which have very active CCAs, as in they have very strict rules, and they have completely stopped hunting. They have completely controlled tree felling in there. So that's how our journey started of working in Nagaland from year 2014. But when we looked at these CCAs, there were certain problems that we came across. One was that the average size of these CCAs, community conserved areas or reserve forests, was very, very small. It was less than 5 square kilometers. So if you're looking at a wildlife movement or a contiguous patch of forest, then this was a problem. Here you can clearly see in this picture that on the right hand side of the river, there's a very intact forest, which is a CCA. But on the left side of the river, it belongs to different village, but they have completely cut down their forest to grow crops. So that's where the problem was there. So then we decided that we'll do a small experiment. We'll do a small pilot where we'll try and convince more than one village to come together and in a joint way manage their forest, so that the area becomes much larger. So we chose 3 villages: Sukhai, Gukhi, and Kivika. All these names may sound alien to you, but this is a very beautiful area in Zunheboto district of Nagaland. If you ever get a chance, I would urge all of you to go and visit this beautiful place. The people there are also very, very wonderful. So you can see three hills there, completely forested. There's a river that you can see in the picture uh, on your screen. It's a very beautiful area, and that's what we chose to work with these three villages. Just like you guys, all of you are green warriors and doing great work in your respective areas. A lot of youth has also joined this movement, and you can see their pictures on the screen, and they are helping us a lot in taking this conservation movement forward. So first we started with mobilizing the community. We had to do, we had to talk to them. We had to convince them. Again, the youth helped us, excuse me, helped us to, reach out to them, talk to them. Then a committee was formed where they decided their logo. The committee decided that they're jointly going to conserve their forest. We Terry's providing them technical knowledge, but they themselves are making their own participatory maps. They are deciding their own boundaries of the CCAs. All the work is being done by the community. So now we have all the physical boundaries on GIS, as in on maps on Google Earth, where we know what all area they are conserving. Then the next step is sanctioning resolution. So they themselves have decided fine, if anyone is going to hunt or cut down trees in their CCA, then there are very heavy fines, like up to 25,000 rupees. So that's a huge sum of money if anyone is not abiding by the rules. And this is just not on paper, but they have also imposed these fines. They have caught a lot of people from not from their village, but from other villages who are trying to hunt. Here you can see the pictures where they've confiscated some guns and some equipment. They've also, levied these fines on different people, and they've collected that money, which is again used for conservation. In this picture here, you can see our youth patrolling the area. They have clearly demarcated boundary. You can see here Sukhai Village Biodiversity Conservation Area. So from this area, their boundary, CCA boundary begins. So it's a very well managed forest that or eco restoration that they're doing in the state of Nagaland. So now, as I said, it's a big area of 10 square kilometers, which is being conserved. But the three villages have collectively decided that not just the CCA, but they will completely ban hunting in all the area that they own. So that's a much larger area of about 35 square kilometers. We also did a lot of conservation education, like how I'm talking to you. The people themselves spoke to their respective villagers and neighbors. We also have a website now where they post all the pictures and all. We took them to various different parts where they could learn on exposure visits. Another interesting thing that we're doing is biodiversity assessment. All the traditional knowledge that they have there is all oral. They haven't written it down. So for the first time, we are making a people's biodiversity register where we are listing down all the species that are found there with their local names, with their photographs and the scientific names, and also what they are used for, so that all this knowledge is documented. In these pictures, you can see how the communities, engaged in documenting their own local biodiversity. They have also bought their own camera traps, and they're trying to see what sort of wildlife exists there. They're documenting the butterflies, birds. Not just that, they're also publishing scientific papers where they are co-authors. So it's a huge thing, and it's a very vibrant community, which is very, very active in all these eco-restoration and conservation activities. But then we have also tried to give them some alternative livelihoods, because since I said there are no industries there, then if they don't cut down the forest or they don't do farming, what else are they going to do? So then the answer is that because it's such a beautiful piece of land, we can promote some ecotourism there. Which we have already done. A lot of people from Delhi, Gujarat, Pune have already come there. They visited the area. They have looked at beautiful birds and butterflies that are found there, and that's how the ecotourism is progressing there. So they're also generating some sort of livelihood from it. In this picture, as I said, this is how the land looked like many years ago, because they had cut down the forest for growing crops. Then few years back, this is how the forests were revived, and now this is how the forests look like. So it's completely changed, and now you see all these beautiful photographs that you see here, be it frogs, be it snakes, hornbills, butterflies. Now these are all found in the CCA area, and these have been documented by our youth, which were hunters at one point. Excuse me. But now they are, instead of picking the gun, now they are picking the camera, and they are documenting, and they're taking these wonderful photographs, and also taking the eco-tourists around. Terry has also developed a lot of education material there. You can see on your screen butterfly specials. So these are posters that we have developed. And this is an interesting story which I wanted to share with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Siddharth. That was an excellent presentation that showcased the immense work that you and your team have been carrying out. For me, one of the key highlights was the transformation of the barren land into lush greenery. This is extremely important, as it's not just a beautiful picture, but this forest patch goes on to embody the importance of the forest, and all the functions that the forest does for us. So let's quickly go over to our green warriors. I'm sure they have some questions for you. So
Sure.
Kashish, Kashish, did you like the presentation?
Yes, it was packed with information.
Good. So do you have any question for Siddharth?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead, Kashish.
Good evening, sir. Your presentation was packed with information. This compels me to ask that how, as youngsters or students, we can help with the preparation of biodiversity registered in Ahmedabad.
So that's a very good question. See, you can start small. Maybe you can look at beautiful birds, butterflies, or even medicinal plants, or any other plants that you find. So all that comprise of a biodiversity register. You can get a lot of information on, there's a website called by National Biodiversity Authority, where they have all the designated formats on how citizens or students like you can collect information. Then there are NGOs like BNHS, Bombay Natural Historical Society. They also have online courses, and they also help schools on how to collect information on biodiversity registers. Then there is another website called a Citizen Science, where basically you, that is citizens, can collect information on local biodiversity from your own area. So I would suggest that you start small from your own school and try and see what all beautiful butterflies and birds and bees that you see around. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm also excited to know that are there any professional courses or training related to forest conservation?
Yes, there are a lot of trainings. One that I suggested is by BNHS. Students like you can apply for that, and they have a very nominal fee, but they go into basics and tell you all the interesting things that you want to know about biodiversity and nature.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kashish. Very pertinent questions from you. Harshita, you have questions as well. I can see you're waiting to ask Siddharth questions, so go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Sir, in your presentation, you mentioned that 353 new species have been documented between 1999 and 2008. Here, I would like to know what factors were responsible for this development.
Again, that's a very good question. Where I mentioned the species, I also mentioned that 25% of the total forest cover in India is right now present in Northeast. That is because of many factors. A, that the population is low compared to other parts of India. And two, that these are very far-flung areas that were never exposed. So just in last decade or so, some sort of development has started. And you must have known about Ladakh and snow leopards. So just like that part, even this part has opened, and now researchers like us are visiting these areas. And that is the reason why since last 10 or 15 years, many interesting species are being found from this area.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so thanks a lot. Let's move on to the next topic, which is restoration of the aquatic ecosystem. We have with us Ms. Mary Abraham, who will throw more light on this topic. Mary is a qualified development sector professional with more than 22 years of experience in water and sanitation sector in India. She has a master's degree in development economics and is currently pursuing her PhD in development studies. One of her qualities is her self-belief, which has helped her break gender barriers. Way back in 2000, Mary would travel all alone by train to remote places in India for field work, stay in villages for extensive period of time. And these were the things that were not considered good or safe for women. So that's Mary's story of breaking gender barriers. So over to you, Mary.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. Well, thank you very much, Salty, for the very beautiful introduction. Thanks a lot. Yes, and beyond this, I think I'll introduce myself as a girl mom, a mother of two beautiful girls like you who are sitting here, and I believe in girl power and women power. I think it makes a lot of difference in term, even in the environment discourses. I think having more women does make a sense. I'm sure Siddharth would have this to say, because I think in Nagaland it's matriarchal communities, and I'm sure you would have had a good experience of that. So I think it makes a lot of difference. So let's all work together towards that, also gender equality and having more gender, having more women in gender discourses, in environment discourses. So let me come to my presentation, which is not as exciting as what Siddharth showed. I've not gone to Nagaland ever, and I would wish that Siddharth would take me one day, because he has showed you not just beautiful sights. I think he's even triggered your taste buds, and especially during this lockdown when we are all shut inside walls, especially in places like I'm from Bangalore, so we're here, concrete jungle. So, seeing those lovely pictures of Nagaland was like a beautiful, refreshing time for me. So I'm sure you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Well, I have come to my topic here is I've been working in the water sector, and my topic here is on restoring water ecosystems. And you may understand that this is one of the most important things for the environment, because without water ecosystem, even you cannot restore ecosystem. And it's not just that it's a scary picture that is portrayed, it is actually getting very, very stressed in the recent past. So I think we all know about the figures, most of you have learned it in your textbooks. So I wouldn't go through these in detail, but I would just want to quickly go through these, that we are coming to a level where we are water stressed. We are, most of the parts in our country are water stressed, and we have
Mary, we can't hear you.
of water scarcity in the villages. So it's having an impact on everything. It's having an impact on the environment. It has an impact on the economy. It has an impact on the in the social systems, because there's rural-urban migration, and there's a lot of things which is dependent on it. So it kind of changes the entire picture. So you see that India is actually going through a very difficult situation, and if we do not address it now, and if we do not act now, it is going to be very, very serious. So most of the places, and especially the state where I come from, is severely water stressed. In Karnataka, most of the places are water stressed, where we have a lot of rural areas which are which are arid areas, which are coming towards desertifications. That is, they're turning out to deserts, which were lush green areas before are turning to deserts. The place where I live in was a wetland before. So these are because, most of it is because there has been so much of urbanization, and there's also climate impact climate change impacts on the environment. So this is the picture that is projected. So what we had, the amount of water which we had for each individual, that is per capita, it's actually really bad in today. And if it goes bad, it's going to get even worse by 2050. And by 2050, it is projected that India would have some of the most water stressed, or probably water completely cities without water. Some of the maximum cities in India will be without water. So this is the hydrological cycle, which you all must have learned in school, which I just wanted to quickly remind you of once again. So in India, the hydrological cycle generates 1,999 billion cubic meters of annual water flow, of which very less can be utilized because of various reasons. And the water storage capacity is very low. So how do we store water and how do we conserve water? So we all know that the main source of water is from rainwater. So there are various ways you can store and conserve water and also protect water. You can also recharge the the groundwater uh, in the country. But along with all this, the demand for water, the water stress that we face is because of the high demand, because of the increased urbanization, because we have completely changed the ecosystem. But along with that, we have another stressor which is there, that is the climate change impacts, which is also because of various other environmental impacts. So the climate change impact is also impacting water resources in a very big way, because we do not have rains in the way which we used to have before. We have these intense rains, and I'm sure you have witnessed that you had floods, that is, you have intense rains in a short period of time, and most of these areas are urbanized. So Gujarat had a very bad flood last year. So you have witnessed all this. So you have decrease in winter precipitation levels, so you have intense rains during summer, you have reduced groundwater recharge potential, and all these adds up to the stress further. So this is what is happening because of that there is a temporal variation of rainfall. So what are we supposed to do now? We have the what is rainwater harvesting? Basically, rainwater harvesting is the accumulation and storing of rainwater, which we capture the water which falls from the runoff. So I'm sure some of you must be aware of rainwater harvesting systems in your own houses, right? You capture the rain which falls on your rooftop, and you take it down. You either recharge it towards the ground, or you store it and you use it for your household purposes, for your domestic purpose. So by that, you are reducing the demand of the water on the municipal water supply, which is supplying water to you, isn't it? So this is which everybody knows of. But also, what we can do is, by making water everybody's business, and by involving them into this whole thing, we can do this for various institutions. We can also have large scale recharge structures, and we can also have the groundwater, the surface water, which can be recharged from this rainwater. So from all this, you re-establish the relationship between people and environment. So the benefits of this is that the groundwater resources gets recharged, naturally recharged with percolation, and the surface soil in the past has been reduced drastically. Rainfall occurs during short spells of high intensity, as I told you before. Rainwater harvesting is process of augmenting the natural filtration of water to the underground, and conscious collection of storage of rainwater to cater to the demands of drinking, domestic purpose, and irrigation. The benefit of doing it is that rainwater is free, as we all know that there's no charges on this, and there's a huge cost on water, growing scarcity of potable water, degradation of quality of water. In addition to the water stress, we also have water quality issues, because we are having a lot of industries, sanitation. Every household in India is having a toilet today, which we did not have before. So we have a lot of sewage water, which is sewage waste, which is going directly into water bodies, which is polluting our water, and those water is not suitable for consumption. So all of these together are worsening the water situation, and this is creating a further stress. So there is a reduction in stormwater runoff because of urbanization and other man-made interventions. Reduced soil erosion inculcates the practice of water conservation. So, you being from Gujarat, you must be aware that some of the city had a lot of rainwater harvesting structures in place. So India is a beautiful country which had a very beautiful history of rainwater harvesting. So this is just a quick run through the traditional arithmetic of the rainwater harvesting. We have had civilizations in our country which are based on rainwater harvesting, which has been done in places like Thar Desert. So we have diverse technologies across the countries. Across the countries, we had different technologies, which was harvesting rainwater and storing them in tanks or ponds and regenerating them. For instance, Bangalore was known as the land of a city of lakes. It had so many lakes that it was known as a city of lakes, and it was all from the water that was harvested from these rains. So we have these different kinds of systems in different states of the country, like in Himachal Pradesh and Ladakh, you have the Zings, the Kuls in Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. You have the Berries, the Rajasthan. You have different kind of systems across, like in Kutch. You have these Havelis, the Khadnis, all these in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan again, and um, in South India again, in the Northeast again, we had a lot of interesting system of rainwater harvesting to very simple technology, which was done by the people for several years. We also had the Keres in Karnataka, which were very famous, and these provided water for several people, and in fact, even the urban Bangalore for several years initially. So storing rainwater harvesting is a very important thing for all of us, especially considering that India is becoming a more urban area, and are most of us will be living in the urban areas. I think excluding Northeast, I think most of the other parts of the country are moving towards a fast urbanization process. So I have not had the fortune to work in places which are pristine like Northeast, but I've been mostly working in peri-urban and urban areas. So again, so I'm going to I'm just presenting you one of the recent studies, it's not a study, it's an implementation program which we have done in Punjab and Rajasthan, where we have rejuvenated the ponds of these areas. And these are once again the urban areas. Some of them are peri-urban areas. Peri-urban areas are the interface between urban and rural areas, which are towards urbanization. And these are very complicated areas where you have people from a different socioeconomic strata, because people are working towards urbanization, and their levels of interest are completely different from what it is in a village setting, as what Siddharth had showed before. So in a rural area, the community works together, the community stays together, and you must have heard of the saying that it takes a village to bring up a child. Similarly, it takes a village to to grow a tree, or to rear a lake, or to bring up a lake, to restore a lake. So this doesn't happen when you are moving towards urbanization and when you are having peri-urban areas. So these are the pictures where we had initially when we started the work, and these are our pictures after we have done the intervention. This is very recent. So we have just completed our interventions in December 2020. That is just a few months back. So this is what we have come to after our interventions. And this was done with the support of, we required a lot of money because this takes a lot of resources. So this was supported by United Breweries Limited, and we did this along with the participation of the people, which was extremely difficult. We had to work with a region for almost a year to get their participation, because this is a kind of an urban setting. So the objectives of the work which we done here, water conservation in these villages, was to facilitate water conservation in these villages of Ludhiana in Patiala in Punjab, and Alwar district in through rejuvenation of ponds with participatory community engagement. As Siddharth said, you cannot work with the environment unless you have the participation of the people. If you do not have the participation of the people, you cannot work on any of these activities. You cannot go and put in an infrastructure over there and just start working on it. You need to have the people's participation to start. So that is where we work on all these activities with community engagement. The scope of the work which we did here was, we started with awareness generation, motivation and mobilization of the local people. participatory implementation of pond rejuvenation for identified regions in the districts of Ludhiana, Patiala in Punjab, and Alwar district in Rajasthan in consultation with the local community. We also did scientific studies to understand the hydrological process and to assess the entire hydrogeological system. Capacity building was done with relevant stakeholders for operation and maintenance of these water structures. So once you do this, this has to be maintained, because you leave it like that, it will not be sustainable, because again, it will go back to what it is, because people are not sustaining. And this is, again, if there's an industry which is going to come nearby, it is going to take in so much of water from groundwater, and this is going to suck up the lake, and it's going to completely change. So you need to have a system in place where you have a village development committee, or you have an institution in place which takes care of this, which sustains the entire water body. So this is how we went ahead. We started with the one of the first activities which we did was having awareness generation and mobilization. We did a lot of these through generating awareness, like how you do it for your little activities along with your students. Similarly, we did it in these regions, in the villages. We created village development committees, that is, we formed committees, like how you have your Green Warrior Committee. We formed committees. We had the village water conservation committee, and we identified the possible resources, conflicts by studying the usage of the ponds with the local communities. We also engaged the panchayat, because panchayat is a very important and the lowest level of governance in the region. And then we did the implementation, which was a participatory implementation, which we did with the finalization of the drawings and the designs. You need to have technical designs for this, and identify the local vendors with the village development committee and the committees which were formed. And we mobilized the labor, and construction and supervision was done, and this was handed over to the village development committee, which is under the Gram Panchayat. So you must be knowing this as a part of your civics. You have studied that our Gram Panchayat is the lowest governance body. So under the Gram Panchayat, you have various committees, like how you have ministries at the central level. So this pond was handed over to the village development committee, which comes under the village water conservation committee, under the panchayat, Gram Panchayat. And then the sustainability interventions were done, which was mainly on training and capacity building for monitoring, operation, and maintenance of the ponds and associated structures to the village development committee and the village water committee and the Gram Panchayat officials through workshops. So this is what was done. So basically, I am sure you all understand what is a watershed. So for rejuvenating a pond, you have to have a better understanding of the watershed. So a watershed is an entire watershed contributes towards the groundwater aquifer and the surface water. So it is the geographic area through which the water flows across the land and drains into a common water body. So in this case, we first started with the watershed delineation. A watershed delineation means you have to understand which is the area which you are looking at, and what is the structure. Like you see these little veins here. So this is the way your your groundwater is moving. So you need to understand what is the movement of this, so that where you need to recharge it and how you need to recharge, so that it flows towards the particular pond or lake. Okay. So in this case, when we were rejuvenating, a watershed delineation was done. It was important for undertaking the hydrological assessments to understand the course of natural flows. So we used the Geographic Information System, which is the short form of which is GIS, for the watershed delineation. And with that, we understood we had that, where and how we had to do the entire interventions. So then we went ahead with these interventions, which I had just described in the previous slide before. Again, we have gone through a series of awareness generation programs and resolution of resource conflicts, because in villages there are also a lot of resource conflicts, especially when it is a peri-urban village, because there is a lot of conflict of different activities. Like there may be a small scale activity, there may be a livestock demand for water. So there's a conflict of the same resources. So for this, we had to do a lot of activities, and this took up maximum time of us than actually doing the work itself. And then identification and resolution of, and then we engaged these committees and the local level organizations in actually implementing the program and doing the intervention and conserving the water in the villages. So these are some of the pictures which we have. So this is how we started, and this was the condition. And we worked with the people, and we worked with the people right from the beginning. You have to work with them from the beginning, otherwise the activity is never sustainable. So we worked with the people, and then we finally have this. By December, these are the pictures in December which we have here. This has been covered in several local dailies as well. So these are the activities which were done, that we did the dewatering. So initially we have to remove the water from the pond because it's mostly, it's polluted and contaminated. So we did the dewatering, and then we did the VDC formation, that is the Village Development Committee formation. Then we did the earthwork, stone pitching work, the drainage work, that is drains are the water which will collect the water from different from the different contours. It will collect it and bring it towards this lake. So we have to work on those drains. And then the guards and interlocking work, the recharge structures, that in some places we have to put in recharge structures so that the water is recharged in such a way that the groundwater of that area is replenished, and also this pond is replenished with that water because of this recharge. So that was done, and we did the fencing and grass work so that it is protected, and also it has a better look, and it is, it looks like a beautiful place, and people are proud of their lake now, rather than having a very dirty body which was very polluted over there. So these are again pictures of these areas which we have done. So yeah, these some of the things which we do is when we go to a village, we have these paintings on the wall. So if you've gone to villages which have watershed activities going on, you must have seen that you have various villages paintings on the walls which tells you what to do and what not to do. So we have these wall paintings, and that's so that is how we did this entire activity. So to my final this to all of you is that I would request you all to be the change that you want to see in the world, and work towards what you would wish to want this world to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mary. That was a very detailed presentation. And for me, the key highlight was, the rate at which we are depleting this extremely precious resource. The slide where you showed that more than 50% of our country is grappling with water stress. Again, making a very strong case for the restoration of this very important resource. I'm sure that your presentation and Siddharth's presentation has stimulated the audience, and I am hoping that you would have a lot of questions for them. So I would request you to please put your questions into the chat in the Facebook comment section, so that we can address it. In the meanwhile, I would like to go to my green warriors, because I'm sure they have questions for you, Mary. So am I right, Harshita? Do you have questions for Mary?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, shoot your question to her.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for sharing such an innovative and enlightening presentation. Ma'am, I'm curious to know about the lifestyle changes which can help preserve the oceans for future generations.
Okay, so you're talking about the oceans, right? Thanks, Harshita. I think ocean is a much bigger water body. So we were speaking of ponds and lakes, which are just drops in the oceans. Yes, but then we can do our bit for ocean. So because everything ends up in the ocean. One of the most important thing, which I think which is of concern, is you must have read about is that the plastics in the ocean. I think you have read quite a bit about it, especially in places like Gujarat and Surat districts, where you have a lot of industries, and all across the coast, like Goa and all these places. You have this issue of plastic pollution in the waste. This plastics which we use, if it's not managed effectively, if the waste is not managed effectively, it lands up in the oceans. Also, the microplastics, which we use through various products like cosmetics, which we use, all lands up in the oceans. And also we have microplastics in certain products which we use, which again lands up in the oceans. And these have an impact on the entire ocean ecosystem. It has an impact on the coral reefs. It has an impact on the marine ecosystem. It has an impact on the fishes. You must have read about the impact, the content of these fishes eating up these and having, eating these fishes will have an impact on your health. So it's all a vicious circle, so whatever we do actually lands up to us, although we cannot see it. So your contribution can be in, I would suggest in a small way, would be living a responsible life. So everything you use, understand, why you need it. What are you using this for? For example, I don't say that this is really necessary for everyone to do, but then plastics is something which, there are various ways of recycling it, but recycling is not 100% sure. Reducing it at the maximum would be the key, especially using plastics which are below certain thickness is extremely harmful. So if we can avoid it as much as possible, we try to, but then we cannot avoid it as much as possible. For instance, now with this pandemic going on, we are all using masks. We were initially using cloth masks and we were washing it, but now we've been advised to use cloth masks along with surgical masks. Some of the states have mandated using two masks, that is, you use a surgical mask and you use a cloth mask. So imagine if an entire state, the population of a state, for any of these states, for instance, a small state like Goa, which has a population of 18 lakhs, every day, if all of the population, or say even 50% of the population, uses one mask each, the amount of waste which we are generating is huge. So we try to do, at least in this case of masks, it is absolutely necessary for people who are going out. So we try to do, everything which we do should be linked with all of these. So we try to limit going out at this moment, try to limit our use of using these products. And everything that we do, like try to limit as much as possible the use of plastic if we can. Using, it's been a culture for the today's Gen Z kids to have, I don't say that's for you, but most of the kids to have new electronic gadgets, buying new stuff every year. So these are all things which actually impacts the ecosystem. And this is all which lands up in the oceans. Finally, it goes to the oceans, because it flows through again, you have an entire flow. It goes to the rivers, it goes to the water bodies, and from there it flows to the oceans. So if you protect, you try to be reasonable, and if you measure the amount of stuff that you use, and if you follow your own footsteps, I mean, you understand what your impact would be, that would be a very big thing. I hope
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
have answered your question, Harshita.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Harshita. So I think we have Kashish also, and she has a question. So Kashish, over to you.
Good evening, ma'am. We have heard a lot about water pollution. As a student and a good citizen, I am doing my part. But I would like to know about laws and measures implemented by the Indian government.
Hello?
Yes, Mary, we can hear you. Did you get a
So
question?
I did get your question. I think it was regarding the laws. Okay. So yes, we do have laws. We've had laws even before, but we are having better and improved laws as of now. So we have several laws. So you see, like, in our country, we will have an act, we have laws, and we have programs and policies. So what is, in terms of conservation, I would say that the National Water Mission, uh, that the National Water Mission, which comes under the National Action Plan for Climate Change. You have a National Action Plan for Climate Change in the country. So under that, it has several missions. So one of the missions is the National Water Mission. The National Water Mission has various activities for water conservation, and the National Water Mission is a program. It has a program right now calling the Catch the Rain campaign. This is a campaign to across the country, entire country, which attempts to have maximum rainwater harvesting across the country and conserving water. So they have invited actually even schools like yours to join the program, to submit proposals, and they have you have an option of having small projects which you can implement and getting funded from the National Water Mission, and implement these programs and join the program that is the Catch the Rain campaign, which is being done nationally. So this is one particular thing, but we have a lot of other policies which are in place, which are for water policies. Like we have the National Water Policy of 2012, you have the National Urban Sanitation Policy, which again, because sanitation, I told you, is linked with water, and you have the National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. We have you have the National Environmental Policy, you have the National Conservation Strategy Policy, you have these are some of the policies, and you also have acts in place like the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974, which has been amended several times. So these are important acts which help which are meant to be protecting the water resources from being polluted. But it's not necessary that these acts, these laws are being enforced fully and it's been implemented fully. So what is important here is, more than the laws which are in place, you need to have enforcement. For example, we are having a draft policy now on national wastewater reuse. So everything is connected, like you need to reuse your wastewater so that you conserve as much as water as possible, so that you do not put a pressure on the groundwater resources or the water resources which are there. So you can reuse the wastewater from the cities, like your wastewater which comes from your kitchens, it can be done at a household level, it can be done at an institutional level, it can be done at a city level. So these are policies. So we have a policy, a draft policy in right now, which is going to be implemented soon. So we have a lot of policies in place, but what is important is the implementation of these, and the how well it is implemented, enforcement of laws. That is what is important. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Gauri.
Yeah, I mean, we have laws, but what is really important and key is the enforcement of laws, because that's what helps ensure that what these laws set out to is achieved. So we are running out of time, and so I would like to quickly summarize today's session. So there has been no dearth of evidence that excessive exploitation, pollution, neglect, and climate change has contributed to colossal ecosystem degradation around the world, including India. And these impacts are not just felt at local or regional level, or it's not just something which is being felt on the flora and fauna, but it is something which is affecting us. This pandemic goes to highlight that the reduction of habitat for animals is creating an ideal condition for pathogens like coronavirus to spread. One silver lining from this pandemic is that it has awakened us, from our slumber, from our of indifference, of inaction. And thanks to Mary and Siddharth, they have presented to us ways how we can stop and prevent, as well as reverse, the impacts of ecosystem degradation. I hope this has inspires all of you to take small actions at your home, in your school, or in the community towards the same. We would like to hear from you about your plans and suggestions in this direction. And these can be in terms of either gaining knowledge, spreading awareness, finding solutions, undertaking initiatives at individual, family, community level. We are really eager to hear about it, and you can mail these details to us. My email ID will be shared with you. It's sultanat@terry.resin. You can mail it to your school, and it will also be shared forwarded to us from there. So thank you, everyone, for having joined in, and I really hope that you found this webinar extremely useful. We would like to thank DPS Bhopal for collaborating with us and providing us a platform to reach out to these to to the Green Warriors and to the young inquiring minds. Terry has been conducting the only environmental Olympiad called the Green Olympiad, and we would like to have you all participate in the same. And to just give you a feel of the same, a quiz will be administered for grades 6 to 8. A link will be shared after the webinar. So please do participate in it, and let's check your environmental quotient. In case you, and we would also like you to, participate in a lot of other programs that we have designed, especially for children. We have another very exciting program called the Green Boot Camp, which is coming up, and we will be sharing details with your school. So we would like to have you participate in that as well. In case you want any additional information on today's session, then please feel free to reach out to us. We would be more than happy to help you out because as I said, that I belong to the environment education awareness area, and our mandate is to work with the youth. So please do reach out to us, and we will be very happy to help you. And with that, I'd like to thank and end today's session. So a big thank you to everyone, to the panelists, to the participants, to everyone who has joined us. And thank you very much to DPS Bhopal as well. And I'd like to end it with, the catchword, which is very popular at DPS Bhopal, that is Yali Ho. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. And we look forward to have very responsible little green warriors. All the best to you, and have a safe stay and good new year that you have started academic year. God bless you all.